Welcome back to the channel with me, your host, Dr. Debra Durst, and I have my co-host with me.
Hello, my name is Faraday Golembieski, and I am a board-certified family nurse practitioner at RevitalyzeMD.
So today we are going to do a topic that is near and dear to us, and it's testosterone in women. But this is talking about the impact of testosterone on cardiovascular risk for women. So before we get into the details, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already, because it really helps the channel.
Share with friends, all the things.
Please, please. So now we're going to talk about testosterone, cardiovascular risk in women, and what does that mean? So this is a 2023 study. It was a meta-analysis done, and it looked at 150 studies. So they had strict criteria for inclusion. They ended up reviewing 38 studies, and 7 of those actually ended up making it to where they can actually analyze and provide data. And again, we do a lot of testosterone in women. This is important to us. And so our women want to know, and there's been a lot of misinformation out there about testosterone and cardiovascular risk. It brings up an important point to that, and this is that most of those studies are in men. And so this is the first one that actually looked at an effect on women. And what did it show? That there's really a lot of missing information. And most of the studies are extrapolating that data to women because most of those studies are on men.
And they're on men because FDA approval.
Correct. And that's why they had to exclude so many, and we're down to 7 that they could actually look at because there isn't a lot of data. So there are more studies needed. I think there's never going to be a time where we don't say there's more studies needed on something.
Especially when it comes to women and women's health.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, it's probably going to be said even when you have conclusive studies on like FDA and traditional treatments, there's at the end of every article is we need more studies on. And of course we do. This one, yes, I agree with you.
Because there was a huge gap.
It's a huge gap. So we have 7 studies that they can actually look, and it does have pretty limited data still, all the same. And so, but these are important. And this was in the Journal of Endocrine Society 2023, and 7 that actually applied to women. So what is menopause? And, is that a condition that actually needs testosterone? So menopause, different stages, even leading up to it. So perimenopause, you have some hormone fluctuations, and then you actually transition into menopause where you have a decrease in estrogen.
And that's marked by the end of a menstrual cycle.
Correct. And so that could be a 10-year period between perimenopause and menopause. And menopause, average age is 51. And so the symptoms that a woman can feel in the stages of perimenopause, menopause, and even postmenopause are hot flashes and night sweats,
fatigue, low libido,
sleep, body composition changes,
vaginal dryness.
Yes. Mood.
Mood is huge.
Overall kind of just depressive view on life, like just don't feel like themselves anymore. And so
sleep, poor sleep's another one.
Yeah. And so what I want to get into today and what this study gets into is those behind the scenes markers too, that like insulin sensitivity and lipid panels and high blood pressure and weight gain and all that. So
really focusing on those cardiovascular risks.
Yes. And so that's what this study looked at. So it did look at, again, body composition changes. And across the board, it is what we see in practice. You have a decrease in fat, an increase in muscle mass, and weight and body composition changes. So we say it's not an automatic weight loss for women. So if a woman comes in at 3 months or 6 months and they haven't lost weight, that's a discussion. It opens a discussion to say that it's not an automatic weight loss. You expect to build more muscle when you're test optimizing and have less fat and metabolize faster and be more energetic for workouts.
So for clarification, but you're talking about with testosterone replacement.
Yes. Yeah.
So with testosterone replacement, we see that decreased fat, increased muscle.
Yes. And that's what this study, and she is correct, I will diverge frequently.
We get really excited. We're very passionate about it. So sometimes we just jump right in. But for those listening.
And this study is testosterone studies looking at testosterone in women, and body composition changes was one of them. And the results were decreased fat, increased muscle. And that's what we're seeing in practice. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And when they're across the board.
Across the board.
It's just not an automatic, you're going to lose weight right away. You're going to see that change. It's a long game, because you're actually optimizing something that can build muscle better and burn and metabolize faster.
I tell every single one of my patients this is not a weight loss medication. I think that's always really, really important to stress. Is it anabolic? Can we see positive body composition changes? Of course.
Yes.
But we always have to do our part too.
Yeah, you definitely have to do the lifestyle part, more resistance training, increased protein so you can build muscle, all of that. And it didn't look at that. But overall, the body composition changes were big. But the only thing was that maybe with the estrogen and testosterone, together, they might have been an increase in visceral fat, and visceral fat is internal fat around the organs, and that could potentially increase inflammatory markers. But again, it's a testosterone oral product they were using. That is not what we're using. We don't have FDA approved products for testosterone in women. So we're also using male products with women. So your office and providers need to know how to do that right.
How to dose appropriately.
And not overdo. And a lot of the studies that have adverse effects were actually high doses of testosterone as well. But this one had estrogen combined. So that is the body composition changes. So functional improvements across the board, that cardiorespiratory fitness. That's something that people are looking at from a longevity marker in different, data points that do that. But if your cardiorespiratory fitness improves, then you decrease your cardiovascular mortality and all-cause mortality. And that improved across the board with testosterone in women.
Also, insulin sensitivity improved. So we saw positive effects on insulin sensitivity with testosterone optimization.
And we see that also in practice all the time. So there were some studies that said you increase doses, so high dose testosterone, of course, would increase insulin resistance. And of course, that's the case. It needs to be done correctly.
Absolutely.
And so that's the third marker that was
I will say that if you ever look at the inserts with testosterone, this was something that one of the nurses and I were talking about the other day, that because she had noticed it. One of the risks on there listed is hypoglycemia, low blood sugar. I thought that was interesting in the insert with testosterone.
I think there's probably not a thing that isn't listed.
I know,
but any insert,
but it does.
Yeah,
even they admit that it can help blood sugar control.
Blood sugar control. That's interesting. So inflammatory markers were the other marker that was improved in these in the 7 studies that they reviewed for testosterone in women. So inflammatory markers, a modest increase, but they looked at CRP and fibrinogen, and both of those can be looked at. CRP, it looked like it was maybe unchanged, kind of very equivalent to placebo, but the fibrinogen was improved. So modest improvements were noted with this meta-analysis, but no adverse effects of using testosterone. So that's important.
It's important.
And so,
what about lipid changes? So LDL, our bad cholesterol, they saw reduction in LDL.
Yes.
I think that is really exciting and important to note.
And across the board. And so what they did see was some mild increases in HDL, which is the good cholesterol, or mild decreases, if I said that wrong, in HDL, which is the good cholesterol. But it's interesting because men have a lower HDL and women tend to be really high with that. And there were some high testosterone doses so they noted that there was high dosing, and most adverse lipid effects were because of high dosing of
it's that double-edged sword.
Yeah.
It can improve your cholesterol, your LDL when treated appropriately, but if we're overdoing it and we're going way too high on testosterone, you can adversely affect that LDL and cause it to increase. So everything is about optimization and balance and going to a provider that knows how to treat appropriately. And decrease in HDL, even though if it is a slight decrease, that can easily be supplemented with a fish oil.
Correct. And even though there actually is to a point when doing functional medicine and looking at advanced lipid profile testing, and HDL is always high with women, but it gets to a point, or not always, there's nothing that's always, but it's higher in women, but it gets to a point where it's high. It may look good, but there's an ineffective HDL there. And so is lowering really have an effect on cardiovascular risk and mortality. And that's the final point of this meta-analysis, is that there's limited studies, there's limited data, and more are needed. And it wasn't looking at women enough. And we need to include women in our studies. And that is a gap in medicine that has been
One of many.
long-standing and well documented. So this is just one of those areas. In practice, we use testosterone to optimize testosterone in women to improve brain fog and energy and libido. And again, they do
Brain health, bone health.
It's preventative for all of that. Yes.
Absolutely.
And so we do, but it has to be done the right way. We follow very closely our patients and markers and insulin and hemoglobin A1Cs and lipids. And so as Faraday says, it is a balance. You have to optimize, but not overdo, and you have to control symptoms and limit any adverse effects. But I look forward to more studies and inclusion of women in the studies so that we can look more deeply at and more critically at testosterone in women, because it gets a bad rap right now. And a lot of the guidelines in societies are included in not looking and pushing for enough of the studies and getting objective information out there so that women can get the solutions they're looking for. So,
and women definitely feel that. They feel that gap. We hear it every day. You know, this is approved for my husband, but it's not approved for me. But I feel amazing when we supplement.
Yes. And again, we're doing all the hormones, not just testosterone, but it is life-changing for women. And we do hear it every single day in the office and from patients. So
let us know if you've used testosterone replacement therapy and what improvements you've seen.
And if you know a woman or have noticed or heard a woman speak of things such as brain fog or low energy or low libido, loss of sex drive, weight gain, I'm doing all the same things, then looking at hormones is probably the next step for her. So send her this video and remember to hit the subscribe button because it really helps the channel, and let us know if you want to deep dive into anything else, wellness or sexual wellness. And thank you.